it's really amazing to be here with you, and just so excited to get into a dialogue about your work. I love your work.
Oh, thank you.
And
It always makes me gush.
no, thank you. I mean, really. I wanted to start, just kind of asking a bit about how you grew up in Oakland, and what that's kind of imparted on you as a person, I guess, before you started defining yourself as an artist.
Well, if you don't know already, Oakland is very art oriented.
Okay.
There's not a wall here that doesn't have some sort of graffiti or some sort of art expression on it. It's impossible to see a fence or a wall empty. It's just, I look out my window, I see this house is just covered in graffiti. So when I compared that along with the fact that art just runs through my family. My dad has his own business, but on the side, he likes to draw, and he's always very strict about how I do my work too. It's very annoying. He's like, oh, you didn't do the eyes right, or your lips is crooked. I'm like, Dad, be quiet. My mother's also a professional dancer, which is of course another expression of art. So I just had those examples, and including the environment that I grew up in, that just consistently fed into, what I do now. Did you
kind of grow up constantly making art and feeling like this was going to be your destiny?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really? Wow.
Oh, yeah. I always did it for fun. For a majority of my life, my mother did homeschool me. So drawing and actually learning how to draw was very important. Yeah. In middle school, I found myself very bored, of course. So I would bring a sketchbook with me and I would just draw out designs. And eventually my mom, she's seen it. She was like, yo, you could print these on shoes. You could market and sell these items. Of course, at the time I was like, I'm just drawing. There's no point in marketing that. But there was a part of me that always wanted to be a professional artist, and I mentioned it to my dad, but there's always that stereotype that says, oh, artists don't make money.
Yeah,
so
totally.
So I was a bit discouraged for a minute. So I was like, okay, originally I was going to go into his business and just eventually take that over. My aunt also, she emphasizes the importance of keeping up with modern technology. So she knew I always had a passion for art. So she bought me an iPad to where I could learn Procreate. This was June last year.
Okay.
So I began learning digital art, and I was just posting it time to time. And then I somehow blew up in March to where, here I am with a career making money off art.
I love that. And we're talking March 2021 is, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what did that change in you? I mean, did you all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, I now have an audience looking at my art. I've got this kind of, I've got people scrutinizing my work. Does that make me feel differently about my work? I mean, did that change anything for you, or did you just step into it and own it?
Well, at the time, I had a goal of moving out and making money. So at the time, my motivation was to figure out how to stand on my own 2 feet doing what I love, because I had worked at Target, I had worked at Kohl's and Starbucks, and I was like, I don't see myself being happy working a 9-to-5 job, coming home and just repeating that same cycle. I don't know. I haven't exactly gotten back criticism on my work. I think sometimes I purposely make things irregular because I want to embrace those mistakes and embrace what's quote unquote wrong.
Yeah.
So, whatever people criticize, sometimes I'll take it and be like, okay, I can see where I could improve, but I don't let it faze me. I don't really care.
So not necessarily criticism, but do you just kind of internalize the fact that you now have this audience that's looking at your work, and then does that change anything inside you because you're thinking, oh my God, the stakes are getting higher, people are looking at my,
At first, yes.
Yeah.
At first, when I hit 10,000 followers, I was like, okay, things are different now. Every time I post something, there's going to be some sort of influence or legacy that I leave behind.
Right.
But now, I was actually talking about this yesterday. I literally forget that I have a platform. I just use it as my own outlet to just put out whatever I want, because I'm lucky to have a follow base who also embraces my journey as well. So I'm always sharing with them what I'm learning and how I would like to improve. I'm always asking them for their own feedback and learning, how to build on top of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And do you, because obviously your Instagram channel is your Instagram handle, and your, that platform is super strong for you, but do you kind of interact with different kind of audiences on your Twitter, for example, or are you just responding to people all the time?
It's funny you say that, because I feel like I put zero effort into Instagram.
Okay.
I just make sure that I post consistently. That's how you get followers. That's how you hit the Explore page and get clients. Yeah. I just use that as an extra place to, get a base. I feel like Instagram is really portfolio based. So at most, yes, you would get clients, but it's not really a place to socialize with the people who are following you. You might get a DM and it'll just be like a heart, they like your story. Congratulations, some sort of reaction that feels very fabricated and like, it's just not, it doesn't feel genuine. Okay. So I do communicate mainly through Twitter because I feel like I have a direct connection with what they like to call Black Twitter. And, just, it's very more communicative. Sometimes I take a break. I was also talking about this yesterday. Sometimes I notice that everyone seems to be stuck in a very awkward simulation where it just repeats. Everyone shares the same goals: making money, being popular, doing this, doing that. And it just bugs me out because it's like, okay, so how am I going to start a new trend? How am I going to create a new break in this, whatever is going on, to shift the conversation? One thing I don't like is being stagnant. I absolutely hate doing the same thing. I can't hang out or be friends with people who are also not about elevating their own selves.
I read about your favorite works, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about that, but you talked about your muse, Michaela Cole. Can you give us a bit of a background into that, and, surrounding yourself with, and, you've talked about some of your driving inspirations and surrounding yourself obviously with people who lift you up. Can you talk about that?
For drawing, I'm very attracted to very outstanding, what you would call irregular bodies and shapes, features, stuff like that. I'm very obsessed with Coel's bone structure. I think it's very unique and it's incredible. And I unknowingly drew her. Of course, I did not know that would turn into her asking me to be in her book. I thought that was really cool. In terms of family, I'm very family oriented because I don't have friends. So like I said, I was homeschooled my whole life. So I didn't really get that social experience. Now between 4th and 8th grade, I was in a public school. Of course, like any other child, you were bullied throughout those years. You feel like a loser. You don't have things. At the time, I didn't realize what homelessness was, but looking back at that now, it will be considered that. We lived in like a very small, probably 200 square foot, what would be considered an office. So my room was also the kitchen, and also the living room, and also the garage, and also like a whole bunch of different stuff. Like we didn't even have a bathroom, stuff like that. Like I said, my parents did such a great job in hiding that, to where I still feel like I had an amazing childhood. I mentioned one of my inspirations being my Bishop Edwards. He passed away in 2007. A lot of his teachings still empowers me and the rest of my family. So we are very tight knit because that's kind of all we got right now. I have to admit, the artists I listed are ones that I simply had one glance of, and it just made a lasting impact. I didn't get the chance to study art history in the Renaissance, and of course, I was only introduced to the most top surface artists. You know, everyone sees, when you think of a Black artist, you just think Basquiat or like, you know, stuff like that. I would love to learn more, but from what I've gotten, I've taken huge inspiration on. I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, on that note, is, you know, you have talked about kind of the other influences on your work and how, you know, for example, the Black community, you'd like to see, you know, as you move on, you'd like to cultivate Black libraries, cafes, and warehouses. But I was just wondering, you know, for you as a young Black female artist, you know, has Black Lives Matter, the civil rights movement, you know, have they all affected you? Because you're surrounded by adults and you're obviously incredibly mature for your age. And that's not me telling you that you seem like an 18-year-old. I mean, you kind of defy all of that. So, and your work is really mature. So how has that affected you?
In case you don't know, Oakland did birth the Black Panthers.
Right.
So we already have that sort of oomph behind it, that extra force. So of course, I live blocks from a BART station where I'm so upset I forgot his name, but he was shot at a BART station by a white police officer. So of course, every time I see one of my own kind killed for no reason, there's this, it turns into a really bad day. And the part that I don't like, and I see often, is that some artists will see that as an opportunity to boost their own art. Like they will draw something because they know celebrities will repost it, and they will draw eyes to their page.
Right.
And so there's that aspect. And then there's also the aspect of people, now there's nothing wrong with creating memorial art, but I feel like we see so much of that because, you know, killings and shootings are happening so often that every time we see it, we can't really enjoy the work. We just see a gun, you know, in a dead person. There's no way I was gonna be just another one of those people. I wanted to create art where obviously, yes, it's a Black person, but there's these other things that that speak out and have a feature. So in all the art I create, I try to make everything different from the other, and I choose specific colors to highlight the things I want to.
To me, I see the triumph in your work and that feeling that, you know, anything is possible. And I think you've mentioned the Black Panthers, and obviously, you know, the civil rights movement is incredibly powerful. People like Angela Davis. And I mean, I see the power in that, you drawing from that rather than the negative. So I think your work comes across as incredibly optimistic and empowering.
Yeah, that was the goal. So I'm glad people get it.
You've talked about kind of your art evolving. Can you give us a bit of background about how that's happened? And, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be just this year, but, you know, when you started making art, did you have a light bulb moment that you were like, okay, I'm an artist now and the art I'm making is different? Or how did that come to pass?
I didn't realize I had an impact until I saw people trying to recreate my work. And it was very interesting to me because what I make, it looks really easy. It looks like a silhouette, random gray highlights, some lines here, eyebrows there, but no one has been able to recreate it correctly. So like I put that together, and it dawned on me that, okay, now I have to start leveling up. Because one thing about me, I don't like unoriginal people. And so when someone tries copying me, I'm like, okay, it's time to level up. In terms of like evolution though, I started off just drawing patterns and lines and squiggles, colored them in. I had a pen and a paper. It was just very bored, very expressive. Music is a heavy influence on my work.
Okay.
So a lot of the first illustrations I drew, I was listening to a song and I felt inspired by that song and like the beat and the words and the way it was crafted, whether it was a sad or happy song, it really influenced the work. Nowadays, I don't have a specific song attached, but I'm always listening in the background because I don't like silence. That's why I like jazz, because there's no words, but you can still kind of get a sense of a story being told.
Yeah, totally.
And there's so many different instruments in the background being played. I have a pretty good sound system, so I can hear them pretty clearly.
I mean, when I look at your work, I'm like, wow, it feels like even when it's not animated, it feels like it is animated. It really feels like
I want to learn animation so badly. I want to make some of my works look 3D. I feel like that would be sick if I learned how.
Yeah.
That'd be like a new level. No one can recreate that. Yeah, like I said earlier, I just don't like being stagnant. So if once I learn one thing, I'm like, okay, so how am I going to do it better? And how am I going to throw something else in and then make that better? And then throw another thing and make that better?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've actually stuck to a style more than 2 weeks. Normally, I like to bounce around and do blending or traditional or canvas or watercolor or pattern or some other thing, but somehow this has become what I'm known for worldwide.
Right.
I feel weird. It feels weird to say that, but that's what I'm known for now. So I have stuck to it. Now I'm trying to figure out how I can evolve.
And do you think that that's going to be a conscious thing? I mean, you know, to the outsider, it seems like you're evolving as an artist and you're creating. So in creating, you're going to evolve. But are you kind of consciously thinking, okay, what's my next step forward? How am I going to, is it going to be technology based that's going to enable that? Or is it going to be because of what you want the subject matter to convey? Or how do you see that process?
I don't force anything. I try not to start it off with intention. I'll say that. By the time I have a person, then I'm like, okay, I know exactly what to add. Okay. But if I'm actually in that stage now where I'm feeling like it's time to evolve. So what I'll do, I'll just take a few days off social media. I'll do some self-detox, maybe a quick clean diet, binge a comforting show or something, and I will just focus on my iPad. Wherever my hand goes, it goes. I don't control it. And those are the moments where I unknowingly create something that I love. And that's from there, I would take that and then I would, try to build up and see how I can make that the best it could be. So I never really liked commissions. I'd say that. No, like for you guys and other companies, I take it now because I see it as a challenge. But prior, having someone else's eye tell me what my hand needs to do was very awkward because normally I'm used to just freehanding something. So they'll give me a photo, be like, I want you to draw it just like this with these aspects and this color. And normally it'll be a color that does not complement the secondary color. That's hard. Sometimes facial features are hard to show. So like they'll want eyes. Sometimes I don't draw eyes because I feel like there's not a purpose for it. I leave facial features out for a reason. It's just because sometimes eyes would tell the viewer, what to think, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't want people to know exactly what the eyes are seeing. Sometimes I want people to interpret their own way and see the illustration the way they want to.
Totally. And we're so excited to see the 3 works that you're creating, and I hope that A New Beginning gives you enough runway to really kind of make that your own, because it's all about that. It's not about trying to shoehorn you into a subject that you kind of think, well, this doesn't speak to me. Hopefully A New Beginning.
It definitely does. I mean, it's very open-ended and it's free of interpretation, and I know how to make it relevant to what the topic is.
On that note, I wanted to just kind of, I guess ask a little bit about the business side as well, because you're really savvy about that. And you're, obviously you've talked about the way that, you're getting client commissions and people want to engage with your work. But at the same time, there's that friction there between the creative process versus the commission. And you're obviously handling it really, really well. But do you think this year and COVID and being in Clubhouse and, talking to people, do you think that's enabled you to kind of get more of an understanding of how to handle yourself? Whereas if you'd just been kind of siloed as an artist, creating work, but without all these other kind of channels to engage with your audience, do you think that would have been more challenging? Do you think this has prepared you in a way?
What I do, especially if I could just take Clubhouse for a moment, I never saw it as a place to get clients because I felt like everyone knows that's a place to get someone immediately if necessary. Like if your art was good enough and your sales pitch was good enough, you have somebody. I never saw that. I liked being anonymous. This is the first time someone's actually kind of seeing me.
Okay.
Yay. I love being anonymous, and I think collectors also sort of like that anonymity as well. Mm-hmm. So I only saw Clubhouse as a place to get information. I hear other people's sales pitches and I hear the response. And then from there, I would just make friends with people who are on a higher level. I would hear their sales pitches and I would see how they invest into the crypto. And then I just level up and then I hear why someone is buying a certain piece, why they're not, why they're disappointed in a drop, why they're investing in a collection, why to invest into that collection. So I just saw that as a place to just listen and gain knowledge. Mm-hmm. That's sort of how I approach a lot of stuff. I wouldn't say I'm there to make friends because I say, again, you never know who's going to hold you back. You never know. Their influence could be the reason why you may decide to make a different decision and you find yourself probably broke again in a ditch because they convinced you to invest all your money into this collection that ended up failing.
Right.
So you can also sort of tell who has a great work ethic, and those people I do stick by and I do check in and I do want to also uplift. That's a very small group and it's very hard to find. Sometimes, those people are not spending all day on Twitter. They're not in I don't do group chats because I feel like it's a distraction. Mm-hmm. Most people in group chats are trying to promote themselves. And I feel like that creates an environment where you feel obligated to, I wouldn't say support, because you should support people, but it's like you're vowing to be this sort of person who's just always there to retweet somebody.
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like it's all that extra stuff is just a distraction. I just take whatever knowledge I can get. Definitely, it has helped me. Mm-hmm. The first drop I have, and I'm actually quite embarrassed by it. It was with this other artist and it was working out up until I noticed that they became very money hungry, or they quickly realized that I had some sort of platform that was attracting collectors because I've had a lot of people beg me for a drop. So that was my first drop.
How are you working together is on that? Like, can you?
Well, for the first drop, it's on OpenSea. You will see that there's that drop has, or that collection has about 300 artworks. If you go on my profile, only 10 of those are mine. Oh, wow. And it was because the person I collaborated with, we were supposed to do a joint thing. So I emphasize that I'm trying to go into fashion. So I wanted to create patterns and clothing designs that he could then use and implement into his artworks. He started doing his own thing, minting at random times. Nothing was organized. Nothing made sense. people could tell. So I had to completely walk away and say, I'm not in this no more. I don't want to be a part of it. As soon as I did that, the people who had previously collected lowered their prices down far below what they was going for when they were first minted, which I feel terrible for, because, you know, they paid their money into that.
Right.
I think I made probably 3,000 from that drop, and the person I collabed with, I don't know, 60,000. He got all the money because, like, again, I only had 10 artworks.
Right.
In that.
I think this is powerful. You're talking about that collaboration as your first collaboration, which is what I asked you about.
Yeah, I think I was just touching on the work ethic. I feel like there was no respect for me in terms of being a businessman. Things should be uniform and timely, and it shows. People can sense when you're not professional. So I had collectors hitting me up. They're like, yo, what are you going to do about this? I'm like, you need to hit up the person who decided to take over the drop.
Right.
So I did a second collection. It's all up and down my profile now. The chemistry is perfect because, I mentioned him, his name is Bear Boy. The chemistry is perfect because, man, it was the funnest experience. We were just going back and forth. I was like, yo, how you feel about this? He was like, how do you feel about this? It was a really pleasant experience. So I was like, okay, this is someone that I would work with for a very long time, because that work ethic is there.
How do you think that you'll see yourself collaborating with other artists moving forward? I mean, do you think you're going to be like, okay, this has to really be right for me, or do you like working on your own, and then kind of, if things happen organically, you'll have a discerning look at that, but it's really not something that you're kind of actively looking out for?
I love working by myself because I have a very clear understanding of what my intentions are. I think colors are important, expressions are important, aspects in the background are important. I am open to collaborations, but you can't just put two people together and be like, hey, do this. Like, there has to be chemistry. There has to be a way to seamlessly blend both artistic styles and make it look good. That's my thing. It has to look good. People have to look at it and be like, wow, not, okay, it's a collaboration, whatever.
Right.
I think chemistry is very important.
And how does that chemistry come about? Like, how did, for example, the collaboration with Bear Boy come about?
From the moment I saw his work, I just wanted an original from him. And I ended up buying one that's currently up on my wall. Something told me to start pushing his work. And eventually now he's at 9,500 followers, but you can see the way he makes, he had his own foundation drop, the way he designed the banners, the way he promoted his work and form his tweets, you can easily tell, okay, this is not an amateur. He's very professional. He knows what he's doing.
Right.
And again, you can just sort of tell, you can smell a work ethic from afar off just by the way they talk. You know, they're not talking about just day-to-day stuff. They're talking about a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan, what they're trying to do. And you can see they're actively going after that. For me, I can, if it's a conversation, I can sort of sense from a conversation, but you can tell the way someone talks. They just have that personality.
Yeah. You're dealing with someone who has their stuff together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And regarding NFTs, is, you know, you've been really open about your NFT adoption journey and how you kind of dived into this space. So, you know, looking back to, was it April this year when you said you really kind of got deep in the weeds in NFTs?
Yeah.
You know, since then, has it just been this kind of crazy whirlwind, or have you gone, okay, no, I understand the technology, I get it? Because to me, there just seems like you can never know enough.
What I tell people often ask me, they're like, oh, how's NFTs? I don't get what they are. I was like, I choose not to understand them. Like, all you have to know is how to post and how to collect the money. That's bottom line. Maybe figure out how to learn a smart contract that's a little bit more intricate and important, especially if you have investors.
Yeah.
But that's all you need to know. There's no point in spending hours of time, especially if you're not a collector, trying to figure out the ins and outs of an NFT world. There's all kinds of special words, there's terms, it's evolving. But at the same time, I really feel like if you don't stay on top of it, at least know the basics, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
And then once you're left behind, it's kind of hard to get back up because you're going to consistently stay behind.
Right. You've talked about respect, legitimacy, and business as like an investment. I mean, that's such an amazing way of articulating it. And I just wanted to ask you about that.
I mean, I didn't see it as no other way. Stocks is a business. When people there are some people who just buy because they want to, but when they buy an NFT, they are buying it with the intention of it increasing its value. Therefore, it's an investment. Therefore, it's business. So, and clearly you have people coming to me, they're like, hey, what's your plan? You know, you have this drop. This is great work. This is great art, but what's your plan afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
And what I did with the first job, it was already not successful. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this a learning opportunity. I'm gonna go to my collectors, be like, hey, what could have been better? What would you have liked to see? What would you have wanted? And there was a lot of mixed opinions. And it kind of made me like, ooh, this is serious, because they were like, because I was telling them, okay, there would have been a second drop and they were going to be better than the first one. They're like, so then why do we buy from the first drop? I was like, oh, sorry. But you have to sort of innovate, but not be better than the first round, which it was kind of difficult for me to understand that.
Yeah.
It's literally business. When you're buying a print, you're buying it with the intent of putting it in your house, and maybe that increases value. You never know. But that's the thing about NFTs. And I can't really tell people this because I feel like I will probably get canceled. But if you don't understand how to market your art and also make it look good, it's not the place for you. You're not going to find a success that you're craving so badly. Right. Because creating art, yes, is going to have value, but is it marketable? And do you know how to market yourself to a collector? Because collectors can also understand very quickly whether or not you just want money or if you're trying to create a legacy.
Right.
So there's a lot of it's bringing two worlds into one. And that's fortunately something I know how to, or I'm learning how to do.
That's really powerful. And do you think that this is like an unprecedented moment in history for so many reasons, but because from an artist standpoint, you don't have to be the poor, struggling, extremely talented, suffering artist. Like, you can take control of your career trajectory and you can make that 5-year plan, and you can say, okay, I can actually see this unfolding and I can make this happen for myself. I mean, do you think that that's something that has never happened before to this scale?
I mean, scale, probably no, but I know I'm a very smart person. If NFTs didn't work out, I knew I was going to find a way to make it work because I have goals. Just
to clarify a little bit on that, I kind of, as part of that question, I kind of mean that, around the world, there are artists who are...
for other artists, for sure. Yeah. It's a great outlet for them. Definitely.
Yeah. That they wouldn't have had those channels without NFTs, which is why...
Of course. I actually agreed with myself that I wasn't going to make NFTs my primary job. I was going to go into prints. I was going to go into furniture. I was going to design furniture. Clothes was always a part of that end goal. and I was just working my way up, learning how to create patterns and textiles and just learn there. And then another one of my important rules is consistency. So I never let one thing completely fall just because I'm doing great in another area. So I consistently posted on foundation, and I slowly gathered a following of awesome collectors. And now I've got to a point where, okay, now I think NFTs can be my primary and prints be my secondary. But yeah, I don't like doing one thing. I have to do like at least 6.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So like I had this interview with you earlier. I was working on candles. I also was collaborating with Bear on another line. I have college, I have my personal life, I have a lot of things that I'm doing every day, different, trying my best.
So really multitasking your way to success.
Literally, yeah.
And talking about the luxury fashion side of things, obviously this is, there is a strong visual pull to your work that's like, it gives that feeling of like, high fashion, like contemporary fashion, and it just feels really, really current and really now. And it also references kind of vintage fashion as well. Is that something that you're conscious about because you want to create
now more than ever? Yeah.
Okay.
More than ever. And I was speaking on this to my college advisor because I'm going to the Academy of Art to get a BFA in textiles and pattern making, because I just wanted to further learn how to do it correctly. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it correctly.
Yeah.
And I was telling him that I grew up, I never realized this until now, but I grew up obsessing over girl boss shows where women become CEOs in magazines and fashion shows. I watched Top Model and Keeping in the Cuts and all sorts of people. I just was so obsessed with the way people could create stuff from fabric. Mm-hmm. And I recently watched this competition where it was an artist who wanted to go into fashion. He got cut because they were like, oh, you're just an artist. You don't know how to make clothes. And I was like, oh, looks like I have work to do. I'm not going to be that person. But what I tell people is I really see no ceilings. Anything is possible. Anything. If you do it right. And like I said a while ago, I don't force anything. So if I feel like this isn't the right method, I will try another one. Mm-hmm. Come at it a different way. I might wait a few months and get it a few more skills and then try it again. But I still think anything's possible.
I love that. You're 18 right now, is that correct?
19. I turn 20 next month.
You turn
20. I'm really sad about that. Okay. I want to stay in my teens.
So you turned 20 in December, and do you think, by the time you're 27, which is kind of like seen as a watershed age in a young person's life, do you think you're going to be like, okay, I've done my NFT art now, I've got my fashion brand established, I've done my print degree, I'm good, but there's new things to conquer? I mean, do you see yourself just kind of continuing on this trajectory?
Oh yeah. There's always space for improvement. So if I have those things, I'm gonna figure out. I'm probably gonna do what I said. I'm gonna open up the cafes and the Black libraries and warehouses to house Black festivals. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to continue doing more. There's no reason to stop. Right now, of course, I'm not 27 yet. I don't know what I will have going on in my life at that time.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And on that note, I just want to thank you for your time today and for sharing your personal journey and as an artist and as a human. And we're so excited to have you as part of the MetaArt Club.
Oh, I'm so excited. I know Liam, you know him, Vintage Mozart.
Yeah.
He texted me. He's like, Izz, I can't tell you anything, but you do not want to miss out on this. And I was like, I trusted Liam. He's one of those people, he has an ethic. And I will never leave his side, never at all. He is so compassionate. He cares for everyone. He was practically begging me. He was like, please don't be one of those people to not answer emails. It's like, please don't make me look bad. I was like, I got you. But yeah, I went into this completely blind because I trust him so much. And I am so happy I did.
Yeah, I mean, really, obviously his work is incredible. Your work.
Oh yeah, his value keep going up. I'm trying to collect one of his.
Really?
Yeah, he's been doing amazing right now. Incredible.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you both as part of. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your time is, and take care. And I hope to maybe see you on a podcast soon.
Definitely.
So on to the next.
Definitely.
Thank
you.
Yeah,
enjoy your day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.